If you start partnering with some people on some different things, you can make a lot happen much faster. I was walking to the gym one night and this drugged out homeless guy came out of just fucking nowhere. Like just nowhere for no reason, never talked to him, wasn't a fight. You know, people that knew me afterwards were like, "Do you pop off to someone? What happened?" Like stabs me in the back, lung drops, like fucking bleeding out, all this bullshit, right? No good deal goes unfunded, number one. And there's more money out there than deals. I'm telling you, there's more people that have money, don't know what the hell to do with it, and don't want to spend the time to become experts in ADUs or apartments or construction or whatever. If you're that guy or gal, you will find the money.
What do you think is going to be the biggest bottleneck going from 30 million to 100 million?
Two things. One, it's operations. But number two really goes back to where you started earlier, is getting known.
You have nothing today, right? No money. You don't have the $30 million portfolio. Where are you starting in today's market as a high income earner ready to get into real estate?
It's kind of a scary question.
We all get the same 24 hours. So why is it that some people build so much more with them? I'm Brian Coons, and this is the Builder Nation podcast, where we talk to top performers, entrepreneurs, and visionaries to uncover the architecture of a meaningful and fulfilling life. Let's get into it.
Welcome back to the Builder Nation podcast. Today, we have my boy, Brandon LaCascio.
What's up, man? Perfect.
Dude, so everyone thinks that surviving the 2008 crash was all about, just who you knew or, what you were doing at that time. And, people were throwing down loans. And you not only made it through that, but you said something on one of your recent episodes that, money follows attention. And that caught my eye. And I want to break that down a little bit to start out before we get into all the craziness of being a broker, of being owning a development company and a lot of experience through a crash, because that's not something that most people see. So can you take me through what that means to you? Money follows attention.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it, bro. Excited to be here. Beautiful San Diego, by the way. I'm an LA boy, so I don't get to San Diego very often. So when I had the chance, I'm like, by the way, we were just talking on the way down here, and it's like, dude, San Diego is such a nice place.
They're sick.
Like it is one of maybe I got to set up shop here. I mean, all you guys are down here making money and we're up there in the smog and the homeless and everything else. You got the better setup, man.
I tell people my elevator pitch is like, look, there's 3 metropolitan West Coast areas. There's, San Francisco, LA, and San Diego.
Yeah.
We're the cheapest. We have the nicest weather, and we have the most friendly ADU laws.
Dude, honestly, I think it's going to have to happen. I can't argue with that, seriously. But back to your question, I started following Grant Cardone a number of years ago. And for those of you that know Cardone, I mean, he's, to people like us that are in real estate, he's really the GOAT. He can be a little controversial sometimes, but dude, here was a guy that was 50 years old. He had been working his whole life doing, training for, I think it was salespeople at dealerships or whatever, right? Making decent money. And one day the light bulb clicked in his head, right? And he was like, I got to get known, because I'm stuck in this one vertical. I'm out there hustling every day, not seeing my wife and kids, on a plane, 300 plus nights a year, whatever it is. And so, I'll flash forward, this 50-year-old guy that shouldn't know technology leans into it, starts a #1 podcast, #1 YouTube channel, social media, millions of people, right? So I'd already, by this time, by the time I even figured out who Grant Cardone was, I'd already been in the business for, 15 years or something, right? But the way I always used to think hustling needed to take place was go to the office, get there at 7 a.m., stay there till 7 at night, say no to networking, say no to partying, say no, maybe partying is a good thing to say no to, but say no to like people inviting me to stuff,
Yep.
Because in my mind, I was always like, no, that's time wasting. It's taking me farther away from my goal, right? I need to just be in the office, cold calling, doing stuff on the computer, driving to properties, whatever, right? And when I started following Cardone and some of these other guys, and I saw what like success they were having as far as really like blowing up their businesses, the light bulb kind of clicked for me too. And I kind of realized through the last few years now that I've been leaning hard into content, which you are too, and my hat's off to you. 22 podcasts in a month, geez Louise. But when I really actually drank the Kool-Aid and started going into that, I realized that, dude, there are so many doors that open the more people that know you and the more you expand that Rolodex. It really is, as cliche as it sounds, getting known really changes the whole game. It really does. Since I've started podcasting, doing content, and just sharing my wins and my losses with all kinds of new people, I've had so many new doors open. I mean, I'm here with you because of it, right? I came down to an event, Beers and Deals, a couple months back, met Rich Summers, met Nick Rossi, who and he connected us. But all these things that I've done over the last couple of years of actually now making a point to get known, get out there, get out of the comfort zone. Don't be afraid of what you sound like on camera. Just do the content, do the work, right? But everything's changed. Like Greg and I talk about it all the time. My business partner, one of my partners, we'll get calls just like people like, hey, I saw a podcast, or my friend was on your podcast, or I saw some of the content you did. I have people that I've known for 20 years, that literally should know everything about me, that see a LinkedIn post and they're like, I never knew you do that. Like I have a referral for you, or let's get together and talk about this. So, long-winded answer, but dude, I just believe in 2025, if you're not working to get known, if you're not working to make content, go to events, network, whatever it is, but if you're not working to expand who you know and who knows you, you're doing yourself a huge disservice, especially because if we lived in 1800 where, you had to ride a horse somewhere and put an ad in a paper, that might be a little different, but today and age, you can sit down and do something like this and people can see it all over the internet, right? So it's such a huge thing. You have to do it.
Yeah, no, it makes tons of sense. So why do you think so many people who are actual operators stay invisible during this, like in this time in social media?
I think a lot of people, well, it's a couple things. I think people have fear of how they're going to sound online. Like a lot of people I know, they don't want to even make videos because they think they're going to sound stupid, or they think it has to be so highly produced, right? It's going to cost all this money to make content. I think a lot of other people are just kind of more private, I guess. And maybe even a little bit nervous. Like, people have a scarcity mindset, right? I think a lot of us do inherently. It's like, I always call it like the lizard part of your brain, right? Like we all have these like innate tendencies, like where we tell ourselves, like even about coming down today, right? Like yesterday I was just getting over a cold, which by the way, I'm good now. So you're like, wait, that's the end of the podcast. Shit. But no, a couple of days ago I was sick and I had been planning on coming down here for a while. The lizard part of my brain was going, nah, Brandon, just cancel it. You can do shit later. You can go to San Diego another day. You can go hit a Rich's event another time. And I know, because I've learned to like use it almost as a muscle. The second my brain starts like second guessing and telling me not to do something, I know I'm on the right track. And so I think a lot of people, they just get in their own head, you know what I mean? And they don't want to get out there. They don't want to put in the work, and they're afraid of how they're going to sound. And there's people that discount it too. There's a lot of old school people, like my dad, great guy, has been in real estate forever, owns a Remax office, very successful. You couldn't get him to post something on Facebook. You couldn't get him to do a podcast or do something on Instagram. He's like, that stuff's still around. One of those guys, right? So I think it's a combination of all of the above.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I think a lot of people, with the privacy or the scarcity, it's funny. I call it my monkey mind. So it's very similar in this little like thought in the back of your head of, I shouldn't do this thing, or I'm not good enough to make content, or no one wants to hear what I want to say or have to say. So I think that being able to get over that and just, I think, put yourself in positions where you kind of have no choice. Like you brought multiple people with you today. It's like, what are you going to do? Not just go on the podcast?
Hey guys, turn around. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And back to that scarcity point, like I think a lot of people, like when I was younger in my career, I thought I was always competing against someone, right? You have a podcast, I have a podcast, you do real estate and investing, I do real estate investing, like we got to keep our distance a little bit, right? That was how that was just, again, an innate thing. Yep. And then I realized, like, Brandon, there's plenty of business. And there's a lot more people at the top that are collaborating and helping each other get to the top than people sitting down here that are fighting over crumbs and afraid to tell someone else about some idea. Like, if I get on a podcast and I unpack exactly how we buy multifamily buildings, I'm not exactly where we buy them and even talk about some of our people that we work with. I'm not worried about someone just seeing it and going, okay, I'm going to fly there and just like buy all Brandon's buildings, buy all the buildings Brandon wants to buy or something. Like, but that's a scarcity mindset, right? Someone thinking, I got to keep everything here so no one else can get it. And it's just, you got to turn that off if that's in your head. That's
a really good analogy for it, is like the crumbs. Because it's like, I can just imagine like the little mouse or whatever trying to take everything it can. But it's like, no, the people that are at the top that are fat and happy, like they're sharing, man. Like everyone up there is sharing because they just want everyone else to win. They're like, you get a car,
100%. Yeah, style. Exactly. Yeah, I love that one, by the way.
That's funny. I mean, so what do you think, looking back now, what do you think one of the fastest, or one of the, I don't want to say the fastest, but one of the most efficient, best ways to increase credibility online is?
Well, I think it's consistency is one, because inherently if people see you more, they feel like you must be doing something, right? Number two is you have to have some type of underlying, knowledge in what you're talking about, right? So it's like you could be the best marketer, but if you really don't have any goods and services behind it, it's not the best, right? So that's number two. But yeah, I think probably the third thing would be authenticity. Right, we're in a day and age where people have gotten so used to seeing the guy posing on the jet, Grant Cardone on his jet, but Cardone shows some authenticity too.
He actually bought it.
He actually bought it though. Yeah. And he'll show his low moments, and he'll talk about his lawsuits and his other stuff, and that's cool, right? So we have so many people that just want to flash the fancy watch, the car, the whatever they're doing, and I think people have gotten tired of that, right? They just don't want to see another like bullshit post about nothing. So I think if you, at least how we've tried to approach content more recently, is like we try to ask ourselves, like, how can we bring value to people that are watching this? Yeah, some of our posts are going to be just random stupid, BS, random stupid bullshit that's just like, hey, whatever, funny and it's entertaining. But we really try to do kind of an assortment of educating people on our core business, helping others on how they would start with something, showing some vulnerability and some authenticity when it's needed to say, hey, look, I didn't have a good day, or I lost this deal, or this investor's mad at me, right? So you got to I feel like you got to be open. Again, you can't be so guarded and think that you're just going to come on like a robot and be like, these are the 3 ways to invest in real estate. And then cut, and that you're going to do the same thing. It's not really going to resonate,
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think with this like trend of AI just getting more and more rampant, it's like people just want to see like real shit. And it's not, and it's a mix, right? Like when you're doing social media and you're doing, you have a personal brand behind it. It's like you're saying people who have known you forever, they're like, oh, I didn't really know you did that thing in your business. Yeah. Or the other side is like, for me, like most of the people I know now in real estate, they don't know that I was a tuba player in the Marine Corps. Like it's a super random thing that like I did for literally.
By the way, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's awesome, man.
But it's like, it's crazy. And so like strategically doing it, like that's where the strategy and the fixated, or I think the strategy goes is making sure that you create the authenticity through just sharing everything about you, where I think that if it's only showing the good side or only showing the you on a jet, not the you on a Thursday afternoon, and you're like, fuck dude, what am I doing, man?
What am I doing?
I just, I'm not going to get that deal, or like I'm a shit, broker, like whatever it is, right? Like,
dude, I think people get the most kick out of my posts when I'll screenshot some nasty email I got from someone, or some comment where they're like talking about me or Greg on our podcast, like you guys suck, or what are you talking about? Like I love showing that stuff because then hopefully it says to somebody else, like, again, don't worry about what people think online, because most people that follow you are probably going to love your content, especially if you are authentic and you're consistent. But you're going to get haters. And like Cardone says, if you're not getting a little hate, you're probably not trying hard enough. So you just got to be ready for that, Yeah.
No, that's a very real thing. I posted a couple like spicy posts recently because I'm just trying out different things. Yeah. And I definitely gotten some people that weren't the biggest fan. And I'm having to realize that like, hey, I can't control everyone's opinions about me or about what I say. All I can control is that I feel okay with what I'm saying.
Yeah, and let me ask you a question. When you die, do you think any of those people are going to even know? Or they're probably not going to be at your funeral?
I don't even think they could quote what I said now, and that was like a week ago.
Yeah, well, because people have the goldfish brain, right? It's like, we all are guilty of a little bit, like, the day and age where it's like, quick, on to the next, right? Yep. So,
No, it makes sense. So, I mean, you've been in this space for a long time, man. Yeah. You survived the 2008 crash.
Yeah.
What has changed in real estate from 2008 until now?
Well, I mean, a lot, really, the financing primarily. But I mean, well, first of all, listen, when I got in 2005, I got just a little bit of a taste of a good market, right? And I started as a loan officer. And so I was doing, in what you would imagine like one of those boiler room shops, like a million, 19, 20-year-old kids over there banging on the phones, doing loans and stuff. And I didn't know, I just had never even had any exposure to the business. So it was like, when my buddy told me about this opportunity, it was like, hey, you can go work at a mortgage company. I didn't even know what a mortgage was. Even though I grew up in a real estate family, I was like, what the hell is a mortgage? But I was working at some like oil lube place, and it's through the summer out in Temecula and just getting hot oil on me all day, 100-degree weather. And when he mentioned an office, that's all I needed to hear. I didn't know what a mortgage was. When he said it's inside, I was like, and no oil was involved, I was like, okay, I'm in this. So, I got in, and the market was so good at that time. Prices were going up. Anybody could get a loan. They had all kinds of wacky financing programs, which they shouldn't have had, but they had them. And so just business was flowing in. And then the crash happened. And I remember sitting there on the phone with an appraiser on a deal I was working on. And he's like, yeah, it's not going to come in at value. And I'd never heard those words in my career. I didn't even know that was even possible, really, because those were the day and age. Those were the days where you could call an appraiser and be like, hey, Joe, I know it's a little close. This property is like, I know you're saying it's 400. Can you give me to 425? Because this guy needs some extra money for his boat or whatever. Like, we got to get it done. Yeah, no problem. I'll do you a solid on this one. Like, and those were the problems in the loan market, right? And they've since fixed those, but that was part of how it was. And so when the market changed, it was like, oh shit, what do I do now? My pipeline's drying up. All these loans have changed. None of these borrowers qualify anymore. The banks aren't even lending anything. The mortgage company was laying off. And so my dad had a broker license, and I wasn't working with them, but he was like, hey, why don't we work together? And so he was just getting out of new home sales, and kind of at a point in his career where he was like, look, I don't want to be working every day 9 to 5 in some sales office for DR Horton or Pulte or whatever. So we set up a little shop in Murrieta, and we started figuring out how to sell bank owned and short sell, and that was another thing I'd never had any experience on. Like, what's a bank owned sell? What's an REO? What's a short sell? Like, I had no, but it was such a cool thing. And I think it really helped me anyway, because it was like, I got thrown into it so fast that I had to just change. I had to evolve. I had to learn these new things, and I had to realize that like this is not the market anymore. The market that we were in is behind us, right? And so, at that time I had to figure out how to bring new value to clients, right? Like how it wasn't the same way we were doing it before, right? So I had to get educated on all this stuff, and I had to work my ass off to be, productive and make deals happen. And ultimately that's what I did the first few years of the crash. And after the crash, it was just nothing but distressed sales and all over the Inland Empire, and, kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, that's a really important point. And obviously when I got into this, I got in 2020. So everything was just the gold rush, right?
Yep.
Everything went up. I had no idea what
2020 was good.
Was awesome.
Yeah.
Great
year.
Times.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've kind of realized is like, I had so many people, and I've heard it so many times now in the space of like, oh, I'm just waiting for rates to drop, or like, oh, I'm just holding off to wait. And I'm like, there's no, like, what I've realized is there's no bad time to buy. There's just different ways to buy. And I think that that's really important for people. Like, so you adapted very quickly, it sounds like.
Oh, 100%. I had to. It was that, or what am I going to do? Go back to changing oil? I mean, that was not going to do that again. Yeah, that was a short-lived situation. So no, you have to adapt. And I think going back to your comment about the interest rates and like, even right now, what's been going on with high rates is, you're totally right. I mean, listen, over my 20-year real estate career, you know how many people I've heard that were waiting for prices to crash or waiting for rates to come down? I mean, half of these people, 3/4 of them still have never bought anything. And they've probably wasted so much money in rent. They don't have any investment properties. And it's just crazy. So I think it goes back to what you just said, is that, yeah, there's a different way to do business in every market. So the smart, operators, investors, whoever, if you're investing in real estate right now, this year versus last year, next year versus this year, whatever it is, you just got to be aware of what's going on, right? Look at what other people are doing, get the right education, pay attention to the market. There's always a way, man. I mean, we bought about 80 units of real estate this year. I bought $11 million of deals this year at a time where a lot of people are on the sidelines. And that's just my apartments. I bought a handful of flips too for another few $1 million. So, it hasn't stopped us, and we're, and knock on wood, the deals are doing pretty good. We've had some bumps on some things, but you can't let the little speed bumps worry you too much. As long as the bigger picture, what you're doing is making sense, then you're fine.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I mean, the people who win, it's not the people who find the perfect timing in the market. It's the people who get the fucking reps, right?
Dude, so the reps are everything.
And that's kind of what I, when I saw these interest rates go back up in 21, 22 or whatever, they went out real quick. And I was like, dude, you got to find a way to like stay in the game and just I was like, the people who survive this, and this is the thought process, I'm assuming it was very similar in 2008, is like the people who survive this, like they're going to be the fucking monsters.
100%.
When times are good.
100%. Because the fair weather agents that get in, get out, or investors that get in, get out, and you see it every time. The market gets tough, and now not everybody's a realtor. When the market's good, probably everybody at this park has a real estate license, or thinks they're a house flipper or something. So it happens. But yeah, the ones that stick through it, those are the real pros. Those are the beasts that you can't stop them after a few years.
I think that's a really important point for people, is like it's not if you can do it, it's just how you do it.
How you do it. 100%. Like, look, the rates went up. So guess what? We started putting 50% down on our deals. We put more equity down. And then when the market's better, we can refinance and pull that equity out. But the deals are cash flowing if you put more down. So it's just a function of how we adapted,
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're saying you raised, $11 million, like people still have money to put places.
Oh,
so it's like, you just have to have the right. So how do you create the right project for people to actually put money into?
Well, it's different on everything, right? But like for us, we started buying apartments with our own money. And then after we had a little bit of a track record, we opened it up to friends and family. And we had some initial backers to get behind us. Those guys made money and they were happy and they told other people. And then we got a little bit more sophisticated. So we opened it up to a bigger audience. And now, I probably have 70, 80 investors. I should have 7. If I listen to Grant Cardone's advice, I should have 700 or 800 or 7,000 or 8,000. I got a 10x or 100x this shit. So I'm working on it. But even the investors I have, I mean, a lot of them are repeat offenders, in the sense of repeat, clients. They come back and want to put more money in the deals. They're sending us referrals. And so you'll be surprised at how many people actually have a decent amount of money. Like for us, when we do a deal, the typical investment size is like 50 to 100 minimum, right? So we have some investors that might put 400,000 or 500,000 into a deal. And we have others that are right at that minimum. They're like, Brandon, I got 50 grand. Or some of my friends that have called me and they're like, hey, I got 25 grand. I got 10 grand. We've let a couple people in for 10 grand, right? They're like, I got 10 grand. Will you please let me into the deal? Yeah, we'll make an exception. But, the point is like a lot of people have that kind of money. It's really, whether it's equity in their house, their 401k or IRA, which they can use as a real estate investment, right? And there's all kinds of things. Stock market, crypto now, a lot of people have money in. So we're trying to educate people on how to get some of their money out. Like if they've got 500 grand in 401k, maybe keep 250 in there and put 250 into real estate or whatever that allocation is. But we're educating people to say, hey, if you don't have so much of your, some percentage of your portfolio in hard assets, maybe you should reconsider that. And so we're seeing that a lot of people are kind of drinking the Kool-Aid on that and want to come over. And it, honestly, raising the capital hasn't been tough for us. Like the deal we just bought like a couple weeks ago, I think I'm on it for 2 weeks, $3 million deal. We raised about $1.3 million to close it. My partners and I always put so much of our own money into every deal, but you know how it goes. Like if we're raising money, if we're raising $1.3 million, maybe we're going to put 200 or 300 grand of our own money in, and then we're raising the other $1 million. But most raises are kind of a grind. It's just how it's always been, right? The one before that was a $4 million raise, was a bigger deal. But the point is, this last raise, my partner put it out to our existing people. I never even took any of the investor calls. I don't know what the hell he did, but within a week or two, it was all full, and it was like not a big thing, And I think what we're seeing is that, again, because of our track record and our honesty and transparency with the investors, right, and how we're handling things, you just kind of realize that it really is back to the old saying that no good deal goes unfunded, number one, and there's more money out there than deals. I'm telling you, there's more people that have money that don't know what the hell to do with it and don't want to spend the time to become experts in ADUs or apartments or construction or whatever. If you're that guy or gal, you will find the money. And I'll tell you one more thing on this rant here, but I'll tell you one more thing. Every deal we've ever bought, every deal I've ever purchased, pretty much every deal, I've never had the money to buy it when I went into the escrow. And a lot of those deals I've gone hard on pretty fast, 25,000, 100,000, 50,000. And, we call it burning the boats, right? It's like, hey, you hit shore, burn the boats because you got to win the battle, right? And so there's always a certain point in the deal where you got to burn the boat if you really believe in it. But we've never had a deal fall out of escrow like that we were serious about buying, right? We had a couple deals we backed out of because it didn't make sense. But I've never had a situation where I couldn't get the money or I couldn't figure it out, And it's not that I'm some superhero, but that like other people can do that too if they have that mindset. The money is there, and the money will come if you have the right deal and the right reputation, and if you're serious about your craft. So that's it. It's what it is.
Yeah. Hey guys, if you're a business owner, high income earner, or investor who's been thinking about getting into real estate development but don't have the time to manage the process, this is for you. My company partners with people like you to help unlock the potential of your properties or even source and manage new small scale development projects. We manage hundreds of ADUs and infill development projects across Southern California, and our team knows how to simplify the process so you can benefit from the upside without managing contractors, permits, or design headaches. Whether you want to develop your own property, explore ways to offset taxes, or just learn how the development model works, head to thebuildernation.com/partner. That's thebuildernation.com/partner, and see how we can help you build more with the same 24 hours. Now back to the show.
I was going to ask you a question of, aside from obviously your family, sounds like real estate is kind of your background, why you didn't quit during the crash?
Dude, listen, I've had so many times in my career I probably should have quit. So even after the crash was tough, right? I mean, the crash was tough. And the reason I didn't quit was because I just was young, didn't have any money anyway. And I had just started making some money, and I really believed in what was going on. When I first went to that mortgage company, my sister, when I would come home, because I lived at my parents' house still, I'd come home, and my sister, I just remember her saying, "What are you doing over there?" Because it was a couple months that I was working there. I hadn't gotten a commission check yet. "What are you doing over there? It sounds like a scam. You're never going to make any money, Brandon." Just busting my balls because she's my sister, like whatever. And then the first time I brought home like a $2,000 check, and the next time I brought home an $8,000 commission check, and she's just looking at me like, her mouth, she's like, And so it's so funny, but the reality is like, I just was going to push through it and work into it once I got that taste of what was going on. But listen, I've been through my real estate career. I've had so many ups and downs, man. Dude, in 2012, I started a house flipping business, right? This is flash forward. I've now been a pretty successful realtor. I'm starting to do investing. I mean, I had an office in Newport Beach, leased it from the Irvine company, beautiful view of Newport and all this. Lost the office, got evicted, couldn't pay my employees. They all quit. I met my girlfriend. Now she's my wife. I literally met her like a month before, got evicted from where I was living because I couldn't pay the rent. I mean, everything went to shit. I mean, just out of fucking nowhere. This was probably like, I want to say this was like 2015 is when that happened. And I was just like, damn. I mean, talk about the wind being out of your sails, on that one. And she let me live on her couch for a little bit, which was good. So now we're married and have 3 kids. But dude, I've been evicted. I've had all these things happen. I've been in a ton of partnerships over the years. I have a partner who's totally fucked me over. I've been in a ton of lawsuits because of that, like people trying to screw me out of money and all kinds of things. And someone said to me recently, a new person that's working with me, she's younger and someone I've known for a while, and she's kind of interning with me at my office. And she was sitting in on some of my calls, and she was listening to like me on the phone with like, the attorney on some other dumb court case, and, an former employee that's trying to milk us for money, and something else I had going on with one of my construction guys that was sending me a $100,000 change order on one of my jobs. And it was all this stressful bullshit. And I finished the calls and I'm just like, whatever, I'm going on to my next shit. And she's looking at me like, dude, how is this not like this is freaking me out. I've only been here for 10 minutes listening to this. And I'm like, Savannah, I have been through so much bullshit. And I've trained my brain, again, a muscle memory thing, but I've trained myself to where I don't give a shit what someone throws at me. I will get up the next day with a smile on my face and be ready to fucking run through a brick wall because I've just trained myself to not let anything. Don't get me wrong, I might have a few minutes where I'm like pissed off about something. I might go home a little pissed off about something, but I get up the next day and I'm not mad about it. I'm not. I don't let shit bother me like that. I really keep the stress level low in that regard. I've just learned that if you have a bigger vision of where you're going and you know that it's going to work out, it will work out, right? It's like I think it's Henry Ford, the if you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're probably right kind of thing. And it's not to say more bad things can't happen, but I've kind of learned to not let shit freak me out. And I think if you have that mindset, you're just going to figure a way to, make it work.
Yeah. I think that is one of the best pieces of advice is like shit. I said it as a drill instructor, like shit's not that deep. Like that's literally the only explanation I need is like, am I still here?
Yeah. Like, still breathing.
Am I still breathing? Like it could absolutely be worse. I always you made the joke is like, hey, it could be worse. Like you could be in the exact same situation with one less arm.
Literally.
That's literally what I say all the time. And it really is. And I think that level of resilience, honestly, is probably.
We were talking about on the drive over here. I don't know how it came up, but, actually I do. So my podcast producer over here, Corey, that just rolled up with me, but he was down in Colombia on vacation. He had gotten stabbed in the leg at some fight or whatever. And so we were kind of talking about it, but the other guys in the car didn't know about my story. I'd been stabbed too before. And I almost died. And I was living in downtown LA at the time. And I was walking to the gym one night and this drugged out homeless guy came out of just fucking nowhere, like just nowhere for no reason. Never talked to him. Wasn't a fight. People that knew me afterwards were like, did you pop off to someone? What happened? Like stabs me in the back, lung drops, like fucking bleeding out, all this bullshit. Right. And that's what we were all just, joking about. But it was like, when I was in the hospital for a week and all this, but when I got out, part of my mind shifted because I was like, dude, like none of this other shit is that important. Back to what you just said. Like, there's people that have died yesterday, this morning, probably today, 5 minutes ago. You and I are here doing a podcast in this beautiful location looking at the water, right? So if we're here, we should appreciate that and we should be willing to fucking chase our dreams and make whatever we want happen. So I don't know, man. That's just how I look at it.
No, I love that, dude. And you've taken advantage of that, right? Like you've leveraged that to be able to do some pretty incredible things so far.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I said, broker, developer.
Yeah.
Take me through kind of that growth path of how you've tangibly started from, essentially just being, a loan originator to now this.
So, I had probably the first 10 years of my career, I was just working for other people, right? I was chasing the commission and it was good because, when you've been in real estate for a long time working in commission sales, you get to a point where you start making, most people like in the business on average, right? You start making 100 grand a year, 200 grand or 150 or 300 grand or whatever. So now you're feeling good and you start to get a little comfortable, I'm making money. Well, you kind of realize at a certain point, this is probably when things get rocky once in a while in the market, but you kind of realize like, man, I'm always chasing my next commission. Like no matter how great of an agent you are or a salesperson or it could be any other profession, but in this case, like no matter how great of an agent you are, you're always chasing that next deal, right? And I think I just inherently always had this feeling and desire that I wanted to be able to walk into a room, sit down on a podcast like with you right now and know that I've got money coming in for my investments. I've got, something else working, right? Like I got something that's indestructible that I could leave my kids. Like, so for me, it was like after 10 years of watching other people, especially other people that were investors, make money doing their flips, buy their apartment buildings, do their buildings. And I started learning kind of and seeing what they were doing. I was like, why the hell am I not doing this? And so I just kind of got to a point where I was like, all right, I got to throttle back the sales a little bit, which by the way, I still do sales. Greg and I have a bunch of deals in escrow right now, but now we kind of more do them for like clients we want to work with and stuff. But at the time I was like, okay, I got to really commit to learning the investment game. Right. And so for me, the first thing I did was I got into the flipping business, and that was part of what got me in trouble because I got over leveraged with too expensive of an operation. But I got into the flipping business. I learned how to do it. Right. So I started figuring out how to buy the properties and renovate them. And, and that was when I got my first taste. But then flash forward after that, I ended up getting into building and development. And I'd met this old school Italian guy. I'm Italian too, but so we kind of had this little bond. But I'm talking like fresh off the boat Italian, heavy accent, been building with his bare hands, for 40 years kind of guy. And this guy knew everything about building and development, and he wanted me to be his agent on some stuff. And so we got to talking, and one thing led to another. And he was like, hey, you're younger than I am. You're good with administration and sales, and you speak well and whatever, blah, blah, blah. He was like, I want to partner with you, and I'll take 70% and you take 30%. And and we'll go out and start building these housing tracts, and we'll do some GC work, but we'll also buy some of our own stuff. And so I did that for 5, 6, 7 years, and I actually did it with Greg over here too, and really learned a ton about building and construction. So now at this point, I've done flipping, I've done building and construction, right? And then where it all really, I think, kind of really clicked and changed for me was when I started thinking about long-term cash flow. Because again, even in the construction and development, you can of course make a lot of money. And big picture, I want to do a lot more development, but with development deals, you have such a long runway of all these things that can go wrong. You're buying raw land and trying to get shit entitled, going through coastal commission. Even if there's not a coastal commission, you got to go through a city. You got to get the tentative tract map, the first layer of approval, then a final map, and then you got to go through the rest of planning and the rest of the building department. And then you get it all ready to go, and your GC that you thought was going to build it isn't there anymore, or he wants way too much, or whatever it is. So that was when I was kind of doing that, I had a little extra money set aside, right? And I remember I called my brother Chuck one day, and my brother Chuck lives up in San Francisco. And I was like, hey, we should buy some rentals. We should buy a rental. And he's like, well, where do you want to buy it? I'm like, well, you're up there, I'm down here in LA. I'm like, let's just pick a place like in between. And he's like, Brandon, what the fuck is in between LA and San Francisco? And I'm like, honestly, I have no fucking clue, Chuck. I literally I couldn't even tell you. And so I remember I pulled up the realtor.com app or Zillow or something, and then I found Bakersfield randomly. And I was like, Chuck, I'm gonna go look at some houses in Bakersfield. And so I ended up in Bakersfield looking at these houses, and I called him and I said, Chuck, you got to get your ass down here. So he comes down the next weekend and he meets me in Bakersfield. And I had already pulled some cash out of the safe or wherever I was keeping it. And I had this duffel bag with me. We're at Starbucks, and I'm like, Chuck, there's 20 grand in that bag. I'm like, we're gonna buy this $80,000 house, and you're gonna put the loan in your name. Maybe put $5 grand or something. Here's the duffel bag. Take the shit with you. Get it in the bank. Make it all work. I'm like, we're gonna buy this. And my brother's looking at me like, you got to be the craziest son of a bitch. Like, you brought me to Bakersfield to tell me this shit. Like, I don't want to buy that junky thing. What the hell is this cash doing here? Like, he was just like, taken back. But ultimately, we bought it, and it's this little deal where I think our mortgage payment on it was like $500, and we were renting it for $900 a month. It was like, woo, $400, man. Let's go. $400. And so anyway, long story, a little less long, we bought that. We bought another house. We kind of did a couple of those. And now it was kind of got the bug, right? Because now I'm in LA doing construction, doing sales, but I got something going on up there that's working for me, right? And now I started thinking a little bit. Right about that time is when I popped on my YouTube app and I see Uncle GC. I see Grant Cardone on there saying, don't be a little bitch, go bigger, right? You got to go bigger. What are you doing with these single family houses? And I'm like, damn. So then I'm sending the video to Chuck. And then yet again, he's like, man, you're crazy, but maybe we got to do it, right? And so it's just, we can get into more of the details, but basically we started multiplying from there. And we just said, look, we got to go bigger, and we got to go big fast. It's fast without breaking the deal, right? But like, we got to level up. And so, the rest is kind of history. But now we have 120 doors, $30 million worth of real estate. And frankly, just feel like we're kind of still getting started. Our goal right now is to get to 100 million, by the end of next year. So we'll see. Talk to me this time next year. I'll tell you if I made it happen or if I didn't. But
yeah, we'll have you back on.
I'm definitely trying. So yeah, that's kind of where we are.
Dude, that's badass. So what do you think is going to be the biggest bottleneck going from 30 million to 100 million?
Well, it's two things. One, it's operations. Because I've noticed that going from 10 units to now 120 units, even a couple benchmarks in between, there's just things start breaking in your systems or processes. So like when we're small, like we could sit around, my brother and I, just talking on the phone about, pick a random tenant's name, Andrea's leaky faucet, $200. Okay, send a vendor out, whatever. That was our operations meeting, right? Now we have so much going on with tenants, and it's like, so we've had to start building a team, basically. We've had to bring in better accounting systems, hire an in-house accountant, hire a nice property management company that we're still very involved with and sort of co-manage the deal. But we've had to sort of put this team in place so that way we can kind of just, basically not be so bottlenecked in operations. But even right now, I'm in the process of bringing someone in that's been managing huge portfolios for guys that have 5,000 units, 2,000 units. So I'm trying to get him over so that he can kind of be, in the mix to kind of help us out. But bottom line is to that question is, if I can keep operations running smoothly, right? Because, if you're an investor and you invest with me, and I'm kind of like fucking off trying to buy my other buildings, doing podcasts, and like the deals are kind of running, but like they're not totally optimized. We're not really being true to get those extra rent bumps or to make sure the vendor that should have charged us $300 doesn't charge us $500. Like, you got to still pay attention to those little things, right, as you're growing, because especially at scale, that starts adding up to a lot of dollars. And so I always say to the team, it's like, if we're not killing ourselves to get these guys the best effing returns they can get, why are they going to invest with us? Yeah, it's hands off. That's true, that they might discount a return factor for that a little bit. But at the same time, if they can buy a duplex or their own fiveplex or something and make a reasonable return that's equal to greater to what we're doing, and we're messing stuff up, they're not going to put their money with us. And so the operations is totally first and foremost. But number two really goes back to where you started earlier, is getting known. Because I can't go from 30 million to 100 million or to 500 million if I don't have more investors, more brokers sending me deals, more people that want to join the team, right? I have to be out there. And that's why now I'm really leaning into content even more so. I have to make a bigger name. I got to get people to some conferences. I got to make stuff happen, because that's the only way people are going to know, like, oh, that Brandon guy from fucking LA, he's doing big things. Like, maybe we should invest with them or partner with them on a deal. We've done a lot of deals where, you know, let's say that you're down here in San Diego and you're buying apartments and you're raising some money, and we're up there in LA or whatever, where we find a deal and I'm like, hey, Brian, you know, we want to buy this deal and we got to raise $3 million. Why don't you raise $1 million and we'll raise $2 million, or we'll just raise 1.5 each and we'll each put some of our own money in, whatever. We kind of, you know, co-GP, but connect the dots and bring people in. So we started doing that too. But if I don't know those people and they don't know me, and if I don't meet them, like, it can't happen, right? So again, it goes back to, I got to have a solid operations team, and I got to get really well known and build that network, bro. So that way I can attract more people that want to join the fund.
No, that's a great answer. And so to close out, one final question for you, and kind of follows along the same line. I imagine it might be a fairly similar answer, but you have nothing today, right? No money. You don't have the $30 million. Don't have the $30 million portfolio. Where are you starting in today's market as a high income earner, ready to get into real estate?
Man, that is by the way, that's a really good question. It's kind of a scary question to think about, actually. You know, it makes me think of that show that GC was on, but what was it? What's the one? You know what I'm talking about, where they drop you off and you have nothing. It's like Undercover Billionaire, I think. Yeah. It's, dude, well, I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say it would be super easy, but I would get to people. I would make the connections with people that are in the space already doing it. Right. And I would find a way to bring value. So I would either be the operator and try to get people to invest with me to start building a portfolio. It would, if I was in sales, then I would, you know, leverage that sales income up enough and live below my means so I could start banging that cash into some deals, build up some portfolio, and then again start attracting people in. But I can tell you one thing, I would do it with people. I wouldn't try to be a solo. You know, being solo is fine, but you know, if you want to own your own company, own your own company. But if you start partnering with some people on some different things, you can make a lot happen much faster. So I'd make the right connections. I'd really lean into getting the right education, but I'd get around the right people to make some partnerships happen.
That's a great answer. Everything that I have is because of other people in the space. It's networking. It's just being around the people who are doing it, asking questions, adding value to them.
100%.
And they'll see it. Like a hard worker that adds value and is willing to fucking grind and is on it, like those are very rare. And so the people that are successful are going to see that, and they're going to want to
100%, man. That's what it is.
Dude, I love it, man. So people want to follow along the journey. They want to get in contact, invest in deals. What's the best way to get in touch?
Well, I would say go to Instagram at Mr. LoCascio. I know it's kind of hard. It's Italian, but MR for Mr. But then LoCascio, LoCascio. Maybe we can drop the link somewhere. You can go to my website, bcgkproperty.com. We can pop that in too. But yeah, would love to. I'm on LinkedIn and everywhere else, but would love to, connect with anybody. And again, dude, I just want to say thank you for having me down here, because I know it was kind of semi-short notice making it happen. I love the setup, and the fact that you're doing it like this, man, tells me that I'm sitting next to the right guy, because this is amazing. Like, I mean, the view couldn't be better, and I love the setup, bro. So come on,
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right on.
See you guys on the next episode.
That's it for this episode of the Builder Nation podcast. If it gave you something to think about, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's leveling up. Until next time, keep building.